everybody. What is going on? I am Jamie Dawn, your evolutionary, revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of July 15th through the 21st. And I didn't do something before we started. I want to check my settings to make sure. Yeah, good. So I'm recording and that you can hear me. So that's another thing. I had a little issue with Zoom. I use Zoom to record, and then my beautiful assistant, Joan, edits my videos. And I had an issue the other day with a recording, and so I forgot to double check. But, this is me being real with you guys, letting you walk through my process, if you will. And, we're in that age, we're in that stage and age, if you will, of Aquarius, of Pluto in Aquarius. We're wanting to be more authentic. We're wanting to be more genuine and really show up for ourselves first and foremost, and then we can show up for others in a real way. So just reminding you of that. Also, we are still in the middle of Cancer season, so things are pretty roller coaster ride with emotions and things like that. So please continue to practice and ground and do the things that nurture you. When you're feeling really out of sorts, that's the best time for you to take time out. And if it's reading the book by the water, or it's going for a walk, or it's talking with friends, just doing something that allows you to feel as though you're taking care of you, maybe distracting your mind because it can be all over the place right now, especially as Jupiter is in Gemini, and our mental acuity is at an all-time high, and distractions can certainly drain our energy as much as if we can overthink things. We have a tendency to make up beautiful telenovelas and stories and soap operas and all kinds of things that can disorient us. And so it's good for us to take that time out to take care of ourselves, maybe reset, go on a vacation and unplug for a while. Highly recommend that during this time if you can. This week in particular, a couple of highlights. We've got a full moon in Capricorn again. We have two full moons in Capricorns in the Cancer season. And the first one was on June, I'm trying to remember, June 20th, or June 21st, right after the summer solstice. And now we have another full moon on the 20th of July here. And so this is at 29 degrees Capricorn. I'm going to talk about that. Now, one of the things I want to put that pin on the map is that the full moon in Capricorn on June 21st allowed us to start to see a little bit of things that we're wanting to release, and that these last couple of weeks leading up to the second full moon in Capricorn may be that final release. So if you just had a moment, a seed planted that you're like, I'm thinking I need to let something go, but I'm not quite ready yet. Very Cancerian. We have a tendency in Cancer energy to latch onto something and really work with that practice of non-attachment. Not an easy thing to do. It takes us time. We can be long suffering. And so here comes another full moon inviting us to say, now really, it's time to let go. And so I'll talk about that, especially because that moon is going to be so close to Pluto at the full moon. And it is going to be making a trine to Mars and Uranus. Now, another thing that we'll want to talk about is that Monday on the 15th, we have Mars and Uranus canoodling, as I like to say, or conjunct. And that hasn't happened since August of 2022. So 2 years ago, this occurred. Think back to August, and maybe there was some sudden breakthroughs and things like that. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then Mars is also going to move into the sign of Gemini at the end of this week. It's actually on Saturday into Sunday. And so on that the 21st, around the 21st of July here, right at that full moon time. So there's a lot of Mars energy this week. But before we get too far ahead, I'd like to give you guys a card to be thinking about for the week. And I'm shuffling. I love to shuffle this way with my cards, and just shuffling to see what card we can meditate on and really come into a place that may be an anchor point if we're feeling a little, off, wavering, that sort of thing. So we have The Chariot. I love the Chariot. I'm going to hold that up. I love the Chariot because it's a card of willpower and strength, and that now we are learning how to make decisions that are based on our values, and we're taking actions with those decisions. So this is a big action week, with it being a full moon week, and that now we are really channeling our inner power with fierce determination. If you notice with the Chariot, right, we have the charioteer with the horses, the two horses, the black and white. And I love it because it's all about being able to stand in the middle with our foot on either side. It's about us being non-dual, or holding things in equanimity while we are including both the light and the shadow, right? The good and bad, the duality of the human experience. And so we'll probably be feeling that. But what we have to do when we're working as a charioteer is, and working in this non-dualities, we apply discipline and commitment so that we can achieve our goals. And so that's what we're working on. And this is not a week to be passive. This is a week that we move forward, we have those conversations, we get things done, check off boxes. Even if you're on holiday, even if you're on vacation and you're unplugging, that's taking some action to refuel yourself, which is great. And that maybe that discipline or that self-motivation to get back into a healthy routine can take place during the holiday, because you're resetting yourself, right? Now, there may also be conversations where there's tests of our strength, or what we're really believing in, through maybe some conversations we're having or some decisions that have to be made. And so, really come back and check in with your values. Make your decisions based on your values, because only you can live your life, right? And so the other thing about the Chariot card is it is a representation card of travel, especially if you're driving or taking a road trip. So if that's something that you're wanting to do, get in an RV, or just go down the road and see a place you hadn't seen before, or one you've always wanted to see, this is a great week to do that. Now, let's talk about the astrological energetic pieces, because again, on Monday, the 15th, Mars and Uranus are meeting up. Excuse me. And with Mars, right? Mars is our planet of action and drive and motivation. It's also aggression and assertiveness. And Uranus, as I've talked about in many times before, it is the great severer, or the great awakener. It's called the great awakener in the severer because Uranus basically bolts in like a lightning bolt and says, I'm going to light up and shine the light on anything that needs to be removed, any sort of piece of information that comes to light that I have to deal with. Some of you may already be dealing with some ahas or some information that you have to take action on, and it was hidden. Maybe it was something you just didn't know about. Well, when Mars and Uranus come together, it's time to take decisive action based on the information that was received. And it is infusing a sense of urgency and courage, because Mars is about courage as well, if we channel it correctly, so that we can have this sudden catalyzing change that can be beneficial and transformative, with themes, because we're working with Taurus energy, themes like money and value systems and the things that bring us comfort. And so we want to make sure that whatever shows up, we are still working with it in our own individual way. We're not giving away our values and compromising them in order to keep peace, right? Or in order to sweep something under the rug. This is not a sweep under the rug kind of week. This is an opportunity to take bold actions. And you may even find that some of your value systems get restructured because of this, right? And maybe some of you get a sudden career change, or there's something that says, hey, you know what? I'm going to work with being comfortable in the uncomfortable. If you feel like you've been stuck in sort of a status quo and nothing's happening, and you've been taking action, but it doesn't seem like there's results, this could be a week where results start to show up as well. We want something tangible with this Taurus energy. And as it builds, so we have that on Monday, and all this information, all this energy is coming up for us to take action. And that by the full moon on the weekend, we are ready to say, I'm letting go of anything that doesn't serve. I'm letting go of maybe I've held on to resentment. Maybe I've held on to being a procrastinator. I've held on to a relationship that doesn't serve me anymore. I've held my tongue too much. Maybe it's time for me to speak. As Mars moves into Gemini, we may find more courage to say what we need to say. But again, back to this full moon, we know we can feel the energy building before a full moon, because full moons are all about releasing and all about the enlightenment, if you will, because the moon is so bright, it's reflecting the sun. And this can be a really emotional week. So be prepared. As I mentioned earlier, the full moon is going to be at 29 degrees and Pluto is going to be at 1 degree. And so when you have that tight conjunction with a powerful planet like Pluto, it's going to bring up all this subconscious shit for us to work with, right? It's the rotor-rooter that says you got to face it and in order to let it go. Now, the moon is also trine with Mars and Uranus at this time, seeing that, well, there could be some conflict energy that flows here with Mars involved. So it's good to let go of maybe some of the old ways in which we've engaged with people, that maybe there are this could be good conflict that shows us, hey, that particular relationship, job, thing I've held on to isn't serving anymore. It really is time for me to let go. The other thing is Neptune is going to be sextiling this moon. And so Neptune is ruler of the mystical realm. And with a sextile is about opportunity with effort, but we may not all tap into this energy and we may not use it for divine inspiration. That's how we can use this Neptune energy. Really listen to your intuition and follow it. If something doesn't seem right, or if you're hearing something inside of you, feeling something inside of you that says, you know what, let's just say this, the outside world is pushing me to do something and to take action, but I'm going to give it some spaciousness. I'm going to wait to see what kind of divine inspiration shows up. That's a beautiful thing to do, especially this week. And with that full moon, if you're triggered emotionally, because there's also a square to Chiron where old wounds come up. So if it does get a trigger for you, create some spaciousness before reacting, right? Or before automatically saying yes to something. One of my favorite statements to create a little bit of spaciousness is to say, oh, that's interesting. Let me get back to you. Or that's interesting. I need to sit with this for a little bit. So remember, communication is important, especially, like I say, Mars moving into Gemini. So our words and our minds get really sharp. We can be very acute with the way in which we say things. There's a directness to our speech, that sort of thing. So it's going to be important that we are careful about being too direct, because our words can harm or heal. But Mars in Gemini, right around this full moon, is also going to give us courage to have conversations, ask those tough questions, be able to process information in a way that hopefully can be of benefit, that we can make use of it. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to use our words as weapons. And if our emotions are taking over, very often they can be used as weapons. Now, I keep talking about courageous conversations. As Mars moves through the sign of Gemini, and if you remember, it happened, Mars was in Gemini 2 years ago. And then it was retrograde. So it was in Gemini for 7 months. And a lot happens, right, in that amount of time. And so anyways, with Mars and Gemini, we're really going to be looking at our understanding. Maybe there's some projects like podcast and radio shows and writing and communication, things like that have to do with Gemini. There could be a lot of communication tools that come out of this time that we use with Mars and Gemini. I'll talk a little bit more about that, especially as Mars starts to make its conjunction, or like I say, it's canoodling with Jupiter. So I have a feeling in the next couple of weeks with Mars and Gemini, we'll be having quite a few new technology, new ways in which communication is had. I will say too, pin on the map, pay attention, protect your identity, cyber attacks, things like that, I feel could also come into play with Mars and Gemini, because as it moves into Gemini, it's going to make an exact trine to Pluto. And when you've got these two, we'll call them malefic or harsher planets involved, there could be some pretty intense conversations or intense information that's spread, technology, science. There could be all kinds of things like that show up. So do things that protect yourself, but also you may find yourself, remember, Mars was the protector of Rome, of the community. So you may find yourself getting involved more with protecting others that don't have a voice, or protecting a particular piece of information that is important, that needs to stay, I guess, secret, if you will. And like I say, I talk about those courageous conversations to have. And one of the things that is going to be important, if you aren't already skilled at it, and that is, as Mars moves into Gemini, we're going to have an invitation to gather the tools or the skills we need to be better communicators, because communication is king in a healthy relationship and in nurturing relationships. It's not just what we do, it's also what we say. So if you don't have the skill set, if there's conflict that comes up, one of my, we work with conscious speaking on a regular basis in Nine Gates Mystery School where I serve. And conscious speaking doesn't always mean that you are placating somebody, you're not being passive aggressive, enabling, that sort of thing, but you're speaking a place of truth that's inside of you. And if you don't have the skills and the stability to be able to do that, please seek help, seek professional help to give you the skills, or maybe gather some books and podcasts and things like that can give you the skills to be able to be a better communicator, so that you can stand in your sovereignty and your power, speak truth, and use the words that can heal versus harm. I would say this is an invitation this week with this full moon in Capricorn to really go through some good healing if we're willing to build upon the skills that we have. Another thing about the full moon in Capricorn is that we're looking at places that we feel we've achieved things. If we haven't achieved, if it's not useful in our life, it's time to let it go. Move to the next thing, but speak our truth and do it. And when we're letting go, do it in a way that can still be healing for ourselves and for others. All right, you guys, I hope this helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Come find me at jamiedawn.com and 12listen. I'm hoping to be live with you on Monday on 12 Radio to talk more about that Mars-Uranus canoodling and the full moon and whatever else is up for us. And who knows, there might be a few readings for those of you who are in the chat room and are listening. Okay, have a wonderful week. Keep me posted. I'd love to hear how you're doing. And I will check in with you guys later. Take care.